when you spoke of Coin DCX, now, Coin DCX was a very active player in the crypto market in India. And of course, we've seen how the regulator came down on most other companies. Uh, I think it was yesterday when we heard the statement that, crypto and perhaps we need to look, as a regulator, you need to be far more democratic and think of regulations in that context. And then, of course, I saw there was a mention of cryptocurrency, and then there was a mention of online gaming, and Delta Corp stocks ran up. But unfortunately, we don't have a crypto stock listed, so we don't really know. But where are these companies that you've made 100 crores on headed with the kind of regulation action that we've seen? And of course, when globally the market has evolved so much, so which side should they be on?
See,
do they chase the customer who's keen on it, or do they stick to the guidelines that the RBI or the regulator poses?
No, first is customer. You focus on customer. Then comes across RBI. RBI is less important. If we are doing global play, if we are doing India play, it is very important. But if you are a fintech and you want to go global, you will adopt global standard.
But Megha, I remember every time we've had a conversation, and when fintech kicked off, we spoke of disruption, how banking will be disrupted, how broking will be disrupted. Nowadays, the conversation is something different. Now you're talking about partnerships, a fintech who wants to collaborate with a bank. I was speaking to somebody in the audience a little while ago, and they said, we are working with a lot of brokers, a lot of banks, and we're developing products for them. Is that the way to go forward for this industry to thrive? Because the banks will ensure that you as a partner are following all the so-called, are within the lines and not coloring outside the lines.
So I think that's where the industry is headed as of now, right? A lot of fintechs that are building towards collaborative nature, and the technology is something that can be adopted by the financial services institution, and that's the way they are disrupting certain segments, because they are offering, or they're making the existing financial services institution more agile in terms of adopting and launching newer products. Having said that, a lot of these fintechs, from a growth standpoint, the reason why they are headed there is because like you rightly said, the financial services institution is going to ensure that you're right there, right, or all your systems and processes are under check. Additionally, I think over time, over the last 3-4 years, people have realized that digital is not the only way, and Phygital is what is growing, right? And founders have realized that the way forward has to be a distribution plus technology. So in a country as vast as India, where you have a lot of tier 3, tier 4 towns, and across segments, whether we talk about mutual fund AUM, you talk about the number of users who insurance penetration, or penetrated with insurance, the number of users who are penetrated from a banking standpoint, we're anywhere 3 to 4x lower than what it is globally, right? So there's enough and more headroom from a penetration standpoint. And even when data has reached its capacity in terms of reaching everyone, the services are not getting consumed completely digitally. That's where the fintechs have also realized that there is a need for a distribution partner who can ensure that the product or service that you're launching or you're thinking about disrupting can be distributed to that kind of masses. And that realization is helping these fintechs to come out and say, let's actually collaborate. So it becomes a win-win on both sides. You get the distribution advantage that a bank or a financial service institution gets on table, and you get the advantage of being agile with the fintech developing that product and technology from a scalability standpoint.
What kind of change, Mr. Chachra, would you see coming into the ecosystem? Of course, we think of the fact that if you want to build, like Sanjay said, build for the world, but the fact is, if you're based out of India, you have to build for the Indian audience as well. So what are the kind of innovations irrespective of the fact, regulation, aggressive regulation or not, what are you seeing happening in the market?
So I think I can confirm that banks over the last few years have become very receptive to working with startups. They've understood where their lacunae are. And so we are also seeing, as you know, Mecca was mentioning, startups are working with banks for distribution. So I'll give you, some things to think about. Generally, if you see technology adoption starts with consumer behavior. Consumers will adopt something. Then the business side will come. Like you had Hotmail, then you have Outlook, and then all the other email exchange programs that came. Even with AI, we started first with OpenAI, and then you'll have enterprise AI, right? Similarly, if you see, UPI was first adopted by consumers, right? So Phone Pay, Google Pay, and so on. Where is that equivalent for small businesses, right? If I'm a kirana owner, when I pay something personally, I can use UPI. But there is nothing which is created for businesses to pay. It's not that the government is saying you can't do it, right? So those kind of opportunities remain, and those you can actually partner with a bank or launch an app or whatever it is. Similarly, if you see banking for small businesses, that's an area that we like to focus on, retail area. Small business experience is exactly as a consumer banking experience because it's built off the same stack, right? But as a small business owner, my needs are very different. I may need to have a cash flow statement every day. Why can't I do that? I may want to see alerts in my bank account which are telling me you have some e-natch payments or this and that going on. That's not happening, right? So there is an opportunity to upgrade, for example, bank accounts. At least small, corporate banking accounts, consumer accounts. So all of this upgrade cycle is not going to happen by banks. Right? Banks have literally very little R&D budget. They have basically catch-up budget. All the R&D in this country has either been done inside, some NPCI or something, or startups. We are the outsourced R&D departments of the banks, right? So they will work with us. So those are all the options. Ultimately, what we see is that people starting to build vertical software. Specific industries have different working capital cycles, right? So you're going to see, CFO suites. You're going to see banks now starting to, they started to do that with our portfolio companies. If you're in the, business banking business, you can't just approach another client and say, take my current account. Why? You have to offer something that nobody else is offering to that client. So we're starting to see those kind of collaboration happening. So I would say next few years, software starts to eat banking. That becomes very interesting.
Varun, what are the opportunities that Kona is witnessing at this point in time? What are you keen to bet on?
Yeah. So, Harshna, so one interesting thing is that, at Kona, we also have a global vantage point, right? As a fund, we invest across in Africa, in Latin America, MENA, Southeast Asia, and India.
Yes.
So, right, so we get to see some interesting trends that are playing out across globally. I think one of the, couple of the major shifts that we're observing globally where India could be potentially a very big beneficiary. One is the entire China plus one strategy, right? We're seeing a massive displacement in global trade flows that have happened, right? We've seen all the investment that's gone into in India and building out manufacturing capacity, etc. So we're very actively tracking businesses, fintechs that are building for this cross-border commerce piece, right? And I say commerce, not payments or not credit, because I think it's an integrated problem. Yes. At the end of the day, it's not a point solution that people are looking for. If you speak to any small exporters, UP, Tamil Nadu, wherever, they have to run around so much to get a simple transaction done. The job or the purpose of that small business owner is to find revenue points, manufacture, and sell. Everything else should be outsourced. Everything else should be done with the click of a button, which is not happening right now, right? Whether it's your letters of credit, whether it's your trade finance, whether it's your bill of lading, whether it's your logistics, whether it's your payments, just to collect money, there's so much leakage that happens, right? So people need to solve for these problems in a more integrated way. So we've invested in a company on the education side called Zinc that's building out of Singapore, Bangalore, and Abu Dhabi. That is looking at the cross-border education problem. So looking at the entire ecosystem of pain points and trying to build around that. The other broader theme that we're tracking is the intersection of climate tech and fintech, because as globally more and more importance is placed on the problem of sustainability and global climate problems, we need different solutions and different pools of risk capital to fund for it at this stage. So we're tracking that theme very, very actively, particularly in India. We've invested in a company called Turno that solves for the electric vehicle ecosystem, starting off with the commercial vehicle side. And we're fundamentally just trying to assess risk, right? It could be in the form of credit, the product could be in the form of credit, insurance, what have you. And the last theme that we're tracking out of India on the fintech side is software more broadly, but fraud, generative AI applications more specifically. Because again, the point is that as real-time payment systems, the technology stack across markets like India and Brazil have evolved very differently from the developed world.
Right.
We need to start building indigenous solutions.
Okay.
Right? Like the entire money mule problem. Nobody in the US is thinking on how to solve that, right? We need to solve for that. So we invested in a company called Bureau.id that is solving for this across emerging markets building out of India. And we are looking to partner with more such founders as well.
Mehika, any such ideas that are coming to your thought, to your mind at this point in time that IFL may have bet on that could give you 10x, 20x?
So I think on similar lines, we're looking at cybersecurity being a big area, right? So fraud, cybersecurity, and regulation technology, where India is, just scratching the surface as of now, and there are some startups that have come up, but there's a lot of work in a lot of aspects that needs to be done. So that's an area of interest for us where we've been evaluating startups in that space. And the second one is generative AI with specific use cases in financial services. So generative AI as such, only in certain areas generative AI is picking up. So you've customer service where generative AI is picking up. We have product technology and marketing. These are broad areas where generative AI has now started picking up. And again, where the money would be made in generative AI is those generative AI models that can deliver an efficiency rate of about an 85-90%. See, all existing institutions, whoever have adopted technology, have some kind of a machine learning model where the efficiency rates are already in the range of 65-70%. So for any of your processes to be migrated to a generative AI model, you need to have an 85-90% efficiency delivered by those models. And the companies or the startups that have or are delivering that kind of efficiency rate is where the money is to be made. So that's the second aspect that we're looking at. And thirdly, then there's a lot of underpenetration in terms of lending still, right? While you rightly said lending is the area for monetization, there's still a lot of scope in terms of, ensuring that there is credit that goes to MSMEs of India to get them to the growth trajectory back. But what kind of products and how can they be made more like a semi-secured product needs to be seen. And there are startups coming out with a lot of innovative ideas there. And that's another aspect that we're looking at.
Okay, I see we've run out of time, but thank you very much. It's been quite interesting as always speaking to all of you. Thank you very much. And thank you very much. It's been a great audience.